natural disasters that shook the entire world. Yangtze River floods. In a short while, between July and August 1931, China had suffered incredibly excessive rainfall. This came in conjunction with the spring snowmelt that was happening in the mountains, which ultimately led to floods along the Yangtze River. This was also considered to be one of the worst natural disasters in the history of the world. Almost 3.7 million people lost their lives, while a whopping 51 million people were terribly affected. Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was, without a doubt, one of the worst earthquakes that hit the Gulf Coast in years. It was also said to be the sixth strongest earthquake that has ever hit in the United States. A lot of people lost their lives, and there were also insurmountable damage. It was reported that there were over $81 billion in damages that had to be repaired after this hurricane, as it had left devastating effects. Tongshan Earthquake. The city of Tongshan in China, which comes with a population of about 1 million, suffered from an earthquake of almost 7.8 magnitudes on the Richter scale on July 28 at around 3:42 a.m. Tongshan, which is the Chinese coal mining and industrial metropolis, was right on the verge of being destroyed. Most of the fatalities had been caused due to the collapse of unreinforced masonry dwellings where people were sleeping. It is also considered to be the worst earthquake of the 20th century. Almost 800,000 lives were affected, and there were approximately 240,000 fatalities. Bola Cyclone. In 1970, Bangladesh, which was then known as East Pakistan, was hit by the Bola tropical cyclone. The wind speed, based on all the data by NOAA's Hurricane Research Division, reached almost 205 km/h, making this the world's worst tropical cyclone to date. According to a 1971 report that was produced by the National Hurricane Center and the Pakistan Meteorological Department, there was actually a serious challenge in providing the exact numbers of the victims of this storm. This was mostly due to the increased number of seasonal workers who arrived in the region to harvest rice. An estimated 3.6 million people were affected, while there were around 500,000 fatalities. Haiti Earthquake. One of the worst earthquakes ever registered in recent years had struck the small island country of Haiti back in January 2010. It had a magnitude of almost 7.0 on the Richter scale, with the epicenter being nearly 25 km from the capital Port-au-Prince. Also, as one of the world's poorest countries with a rather limited history of such high-magnitude earthquakes, the disaster had left Haiti facing extremely high levels of damage, demises, and casualties. Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. An absolutely disastrous earthquake with a magnitude of almost 9.1 on the Richter scale took place just off the west coast of Sumatra, located in Indonesia. And in the Indian Ocean, it provoked a massive tsunami that struck almost 12 countries in South Asia and East Africa. Traveling at an enormous speed of around 800 km/h and generating waves that were as high as 30 meters. Due to its speed, people had very little time to escape the unsafe regions. Approximately 2 million people had been displaced due to the unfortunate disaster. Typhoon Nina. One of the most devastating floods that occurred in all of history was in central China as a result of all the heavy rains that were brought by Typhoon Nina that poured down over an unbelievable 3-day period. The typhoon was also followed by the Banqiao Dam failure that was on the River Ru in the western Chinese province of Henan on August 8. Along with this, 61 dams and reservoirs failed in several other regions. Approximately 10 million people were left without shelter, and there were 150,000 fatalities. The Great Kanto Earthquake. This tragic earthquake struck at around 11:58 a.m., reaching a magnitude of almost 8.2 on the Richter scale and completely leaving the capital Tokyo and the city of Yokohama in terrible ruins. It even produced a tsunami with waves that reached nearly 12 meters high and provoked several fires that were caused by overturned cooking stoves in numerous homes and, combined with heavy winds, made matters much worse. There were approximately 130,000 fatalities, while 60% of the population was left homeless. Bangladesh cyclone. Considered to easily be one of the worst recorded tropical cyclones in history, this cyclone struck Chittagong, which is one of the most densely populated regions in Bangladesh, with winds that reached a speed of almost 210 km/h. Due to a shortage of drinkable water and a lack of sanitation, the prevalence of dysentery and diarrhea rocketed, with as many as 2,000 demises reported in the first 3 weeks after the cyclone had struck. An estimated 780,000 homes were destroyed, and there were approximately 139,000 fatalities.